beautiful downtown Millheim, in the smack dab center of the Keystone State. This is Lou Bryson with Seen Through a Glass, a podcast that's mostly about food and drink in central Pennsylvania. Welcome to episode 47. Cheesesteak is one word. I've seen a whole lot of words and pictures flying on social media about cheesesteaks over the past few years, and it's reached a fever pitch recently. Everyone has opinions, from the one true way of cheesesteak crowd to the folks who think anything involving some kind of meat and some kind of cheese, some kind of long roll with maybe some kind of fried vegetable is a Philly cheese steak. Central PA has both camps, and I thought it was time to see it through a glass, as it were. So I got an interview with a cheesesteak maker here in Center County, Pat Romano, who owns the We Are Inn up in Philipsburg. I've told you about Pat's place before, but there's also a news aspect to this latest interview. Pat's opening a new, much larger, much more ambitious place in State College, on East College Avenue in the old Letterman's restaurant. And we talked about that, too. Now, I've had cheesesteaks in some other Central PA places, and I'll try to be objective without being rude. Cheesesteaks are very personal, even divisive, to people who grew up with them and eat them regularly. We have our own ideas about them, and, well, you remember how I said they're one true way cheesesteak people? It's pretty telling that they don't even agree on what that one true way is. Now, while I don't go as widely accepting on cheesesteaks as I do on pizza, check how broad-minded I am about pizza back in episode 40. I do acknowledge, for instance, what I call the Lancaster heresy, where pretty much every cheesesteak comes with sauce and onions, with the beef, sauce, and onions all chopped in together on the grill. And I'm okay with either chopped meat or strips. The three major cheese groups, Whiz, American, Provolone, that's all okay with me. And if you want mushrooms or cherry peppers or long hots on there, it's all good. I've even gotten used to the idea of sesame seeds on the roll, reluctantly. I do draw some lines, but we'll get into that later. First, here's what I'm drinking today. What I'm drinking today is a relatively rare thing. It's a single-barrel corn whiskey. It's from Liberty Pole Spirits, Jim and Ellen Huff, down in Washington, PA. You may remember I visited them back in episode 37, and I tasted and talked about some of their regular corn whiskey for that show. But I mentioned tasting corn whiskey in their warehouse, and this bottle came from that one barrel we tasted, barrel number 572. Jim decided to bottle it as a single barrel, and he sent me one because he remembered how much I'd liked it. Corn whiskey is not bourbon. It is required to be at least 80% corn, as opposed to bourbon's 51%. Maybe a bigger difference is that corn whiskey, unlike bourbon, rye, or wheat whiskey in America, is not aged in new charred oak barrels. In fact, corn whiskey is not required to be aged in barrels at all. If it is, they cannot be new charred oak barrels. They have to be either new barrels that are uncharred or used barrels. They do still have to be made from oak. Liberty Pole's corn whiskey is 80% Bloody Butcher corn, 20% malt, double distilled in their pot stills, and then aged in their own used bourbon and rye whiskey barrels. Barrel 572, aged for a little over 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, and it's bottled at 119.2 proof. Let's see if it's as good as I remember. First off, this is possibly the darkest corn whiskey I've ever seen. It's a kind of a reddish gold color. Like I said, fairly dark for something that's been aged in used barrels for only 40 years. Let's get a whiff. Yeah, this is what I remember. There's the, like a stewed corn with a sharp edge to it. Kind of, wow, what would that be? Maybe more like a roasted corn. There's actually some fruit notes there, a little bit of berry, which is kind of weird. I mean, I don't expect to be getting that from corn whiskey. Corn whiskey, it's usually, it's corn, it's vegetal, there's a little oak. There is some oak, but it's almost like if oak was a cookie. It's hard to describe. Let's take a taste. Oh, yeah. Wow. This is, gosh, the weird comparison I'm coming up with is like, this is a Rachel to Bourbon's Reuben. It's good. It's got a lot of stuff going on, but it's not really so much lighter as it's more restrained. It is a little less mature and developed than I'd expect from a bourbon, but at the same time, it's rounded and integrated. Oh, but it's also rich with like corn pastry, like corn cakes, and the sweetness of the oak, and a certain amount of, like a roasted corn, but not a dry roasted corn, like corn on the cob roasted on a grill, that kind of thing. It's almost got that same caramelization going. And the finish, it's warm, it's peppery, it's sweet. It still has those great roasted Maillard notes. Yeah, this is really good. I'm glad Jim sent me a bottle of this. Look, I don't know if any of this is left. If it is, you ought to get on it. But Liberty Pole is making some really good corn whiskey. And if you've ever thought about it, if you ever had corn whiskey and thought, I don't get it, you ought to try it. That's pretty good. Now, before we get going on cheesesteaks and do the interview with Pat Romano, it's time for Smack Dab in the Center, sponsored by the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau. Whew, baby, it sure has been cold in Center County this week. Things froze that haven't frozen in years. You know what's great when it's cold, cold, cold? Snuggling up next to a fireplace. There is nothing like the crackle and pop of an open fire, and the camaraderie it brings to an evening or an afternoon just can't be matched. There are plenty of places in Center County where you can get toasty by a hearth and have a drink and some appropriate snacks while you're relaxing your warming bones. It's even a great way to enhance your dry January trip if you're taking that journey. Hot chocolate or a nice latte are perfect fireside sips. If you do want a drink, why not go where they make it? University Wine Company, Mount Nittany Winery, and Seven Mountains Winery all have fireplaces. Seven Mountains may be a little harder to get to, but man, that hunting lodge feel is great. If cider is more your gig, a glass of ginger jerry by the fire at Titan Hollow will get you glowing inside and out. When you're snowbound in State College, you can walk to the open fire at the back bar at Champs or snuggle up at Adam's Apple. If you're mobile, head out to Tofttrees for more choices. There's fine dining at Grace's at Carnegie House, the savory Namesake at the Field Burger and Tap, and the relaxed vibe at the American Ale House, and they all have cozy hearths. Or come join me out in the country. The Philipsburg Inn has a dining room fireplace, and there are 2 fireplaces here in beautiful downtown Millheim, at the Millheim Hotel, or, hey dry January friends, the Meandering Mallard Coffee Shop has a big stone fireplace. You can find all of these places under the Eats tab at the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau website, happyvalley.com. Stay warm by the fire in Happy Valley. All right, let's talk about cheesesteaks. Now, here are my bona fides. I grew up on the far western border of cheesesteak territory in Lancaster County. We'll talk about where that border runs shortly. Now, Lancaster's slipped a bit since then, but in the 70s and 80s, Speeds and Rendezvous were making pretty good cheesesteaks. I visited my sister in Philly occasionally, and she knew the good places down there. She was on a first-name basis with the guys at Spataro's in the Reading Terminal Market. I'd just get what she said to get, and she never steered me wrong. Then I lived in Lower Bucks County for 30 years, and I ate the local cheesesteaks, and I ate the cheesesteaks in Philly. Yes, I've had Pat's and Gino's, which are neither as good or as bad as people will tell you. I've had them in the Italian Market, the 9th Street Market, as it's properly named. I've had them up in the Northeast. I mourned the closing of Fresco's. And I've had the cheesesteak at John's Roast Pork. We'll talk about the Philly roast pork in the interview with Pat. But I also made cheesesteaks in a real sandwich shop. When I was a junior in high school, I worked at Chuck's Hell of a Sandwich Shop back in Lancaster County, and I made a lot of cheesesteaks. They were pretty proper. Chuck was from Conshohocken and got his rolls from Amoroso's back in the day. We did things right. So, I have my own opinions. Here's what I have to say about cheesesteaks. First, Nomenclature. It's a cheesesteak, one word, not a Philly cheesesteak. That's redundant. If I see Philly cheesesteak on the menu, I'm probably not going to order it. It is not a chopped cheese, the ground beef and cheese New Yorker bodega thing. It's not at all like an Italian beef, and my Chicago friends know that, and we're good with that. It's not a steak and cheese or a steak bomb, which appears to be a Boston/New England thing, where they take all the options for a cheesesteak and some chunky beef. New England has this whole thing about steak tips. Throw it on the grill, and then stuff it into a torpedo roll. Never had one, which I intend to remedy the next time I head north because it looks good. But it's definitely not a cheesesteak, and New Englanders agree, so we're good there. The nomenclature is important, I think, because it's how I draw the border of cheesesteak territory. You've got the full 5-county area, Philadelphia, Bucks, Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester counties. There's most of southern Jersey, definitely Camden and Trenton, and Cape May to Summers Point, because they know we need something to eat when we're down the shore. Maybe up as far as Tom's River, but definitely not New Brunswick or Asbury Park. Then out west to Lancaster, up to Reading, over to the Lehigh Valley. That's where it's called simply a cheesesteak. Outside of that area, you tend to see Philly cheesesteak, and they put green peppers on it. One place we went to years ago up in Schuylkill County put mint on their cheesesteaks. Ye freaking gods! We'll talk about this kind of thing, but saying what isn't a cheesesteak, it kind of invites the question, what is a cheesesteak? Break it down, and it's pretty simple. First, it's the steak. Not a lot of argument here. The best cheesesteaks are made from shaved ribeye beef, cooked fast and hot with a minimum of seasonings, salt and pepper, so the flavor comes through. You can get a chicken cheesesteak, and they can be really good, but they're not cheesesteaks. They're chicken cheesesteaks, and that's what they'll always be. Of course, there's also the cheese, and this, I'll admit, is a bit contentious. I grew up with Whiz, the flavorful processed cheese spread kept warm in a steel steam table insert sitting on the grill and ladled onto the steak when it's done. These days, lots of people turn their nose up at Whiz and sneer. That's fake cheese, they'll say. What do they prefer usually? American cheese, which, of course, is also processed cheese. It's trendy now to prefer Cooper Sharp, and guess what that is? It's a brand of American cheese. Look, I have no problem with American cheese, which, by the way, is actually a Swiss invention, but don't act like it's all that much better than the Whiz. And then some say provolone and some say mozzarella, which is so stringy, and presidential candidate John Kerry famously asked for Swiss. Well, it was famous in Philly, maybe more like infamous. Look, you get whatever cheese you want if the place has it. The top 3 choices today are probably American and Whiz, with provolone as a distant third, everything else a long way back from there. Some places lay the cheese on top when they put the sandwich together. Oh, and let's not even get started on that. A cheesesteak is a sandwich. Jeez, people. Some places, and I prefer this because it's how I learned to make cheesesteaks many years ago, they'll form the fried meat in a straight line on the grill when it's done, put the cheese on top, let it melt and run a bit, and then they lay the split roll on top, put a long spatula underneath, and flip the whole thing over into their other hand, maybe up the arm a bit if it's a large steak, and there you are. Some places will chop the cheese into the cooked steak, get it all through there. Can't go cheap on the cheese, there's got to be enough, and it's got to be melted. But maybe most importantly, it's the right roll that makes a cheesesteak. It's got to be long, fairly soft on the inside with a durable crust that's not soft or crackly brittle, but more leathery, so it can hold a juicy steak and not disintegrate, so you can cut it leaving a half-inch hinge that won't dissolve, but holds the steak together in your hand. That's a lot to ask of a piece of bread, but that's why most cheesesteak aficionados will tell you that the roll is the most important aspect of a great cheesesteak. Amoroso rolls used to be the standard, but it's generally agreed that they lost their edge in a big way. Nowadays, that consensus on the premier roll is missing. Lissio's Bakery in Glassboro, New Jersey is maybe mentioned most often, but as Pat Romano will tell you, Cora Police in Norristown has its supporters, and Conshohocken Bakery, and Morabito's. So what makes the cheesesteak rolls in that area the best? Is it the water? Maybe the generations of experience? Is it simply the will and knowing what the customers want? All of that? Maybe. But it's very hard to find a good cheesesteak roll being made outside of the Philadelphia area. Good cheesesteak places bring the rolls in from there. Steak, a little salt and pepper, cheese, and the right roll. That's a cheesesteak. What? You were expecting onions, mushrooms, pizza sauce, hot peppers, or maybe lettuce and tomato, or green peppers? Those are all extras, every one of them. In my not so humble opinion, you should have to order them additionally. I always get fried onions on mine, for example, and I don't mind asking. Sometimes I get the mushrooms. You might also see these extras as part of a menu item, like a mushroom cheesesteak, a pizza steak, or yes, lettuce and tomato do belong on what's known as a cheesesteak hoagie. But they're extras. And if I see a cheesesteak on a menu outside the cheesesteak zone of control and it has green peppers on it, yeah, I'm getting a burger. See, that's a whole thing for me, the green peppers. You'll see that on Philly cheesesteaks from Harrisburg to Seattle, and I have no idea where they got the idea that a cheesesteak comes with green peppers. I mean, if you want them as an option, fine. But where did the idea come from? I don't even see them as an option most places inside the cheesesteak zone, and yet they're damn near ubiquitous on this side of the line. It baffles me. You can get green peppers at the We Are Inn, though you don't have to. Pat and I saw eye to eye on about 95% of cheesesteak stuff, and that's about as much as you can reasonably expect. Let's get to the interview and talk cheesesteaks, roast pork sandwiches, and how a property flipper from Philly wound up flipping cheesesteaks in Philipsburg and is now poised to make a big impact in State College. Pat took me through the new place before we sat down to talk. It's large. Front room, back bar, large outdoor area, a private space halfway between the upper floor and the basement that Pat has big high-end plans for, and a large basement area with its own kitchen and bar, suitable for thumping fun with karaoke, mechanical bull, line dancing. There's lots of stuff for everyone. There's a large kitchen that Pat's completely modernizing, and yes, there will be sauces and the Caesar dressing for sale to go. A word about the sound quality. The place is under construction, and there are construction guys talking in the background. I jiggled the sound to minimize it, but I apologize for it. I think the content makes up for it. Ladies and gentlemen, Pat Romano. Hey, I'm here with Pat Romano. We are sitting in the new place in State College, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Welcome to the place, Lou. It's a pleasure to have you here. Someone as astute as you in the food community.
The big news is this new place, but I want to talk about the first place, the place in Philipsburg first. You told me you're from Norristown originally, is that right?
Born in Norristown, but lived in Philadelphia a good portion of my life. My mom worked at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital, so we moved there so she could take the L down to work rather than driving.
Yeah. And you lived in Philly for...
probably, let's see, from 6th grade until... after high school.
Okay.
So probably about 10 years, 12 years. 12 years in Overbrook.
How did you wind up in Philipsburg?
That's a great question. People ask me that all the time.
Because it's a hell of a stretch, you know?
So in Norristown, there's the Mount Carmel Hunt Club, which is on Main Street, up the street from the Zepp's place, Lou's.
Okay.
And sure, we'll have questions.
We need to talk about Zepp's, yeah.
So there was a Mount Carmel Hunt Club that was affiliated with the Mount Carmel Club, and it was an Italian club, and guys used to ride out 322, and they used to hunt in Reese's Hollow. And then in 1957, someone told them about...
Oh, wow, okay.
This
Way
goes
back,
back.
right?
Yeah. So someone told them about a place that was in Philipsburg where the guy would rent. It was like a bed and breakfast style, because it was a part of the way people funded their taxes and different things back then. There were little camps everywhere that people would rent out. So the guys came up 1957. They hunted in Philipsburg. They liked it. 1960, they bought the property. And that my dad was one of the guys in there. I was born in 68, so I've been coming to the area my whole life. Okay. And I always loved it. I did, and I always wanted to live in the area. And with the Penn State stuff, our family was always Penn State.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of steel workers in my family, and they just, they can identify with the blue collar atmosphere of Penn State. Black shoes, basic blues. If you're a blue collar guy, how can you not go with that? So that brought me to the area, and years later, we were up at our camp on vacation, and my wife Jennifer and we sat there, and the place next door had foreclosed, and I was flipping properties, and I kind of was being sneaky. I said, let's flip that one, knowing that we would sooner or later get to move into it, because we had little girls and stuff like that. So, we went that direction, and here we are.
Okay.
Enjoying the community.
Yeah. So the We Are In, I mean, when did you, was that already a business going?
So the building had been vacant for about 17 years, and I was doing.
Oh, wow.
I was a general contractor.
Okay.
And I took those skills with me here, and I was doing stuff especially with turnover. When
so
turnover
you
happened,
were not a restaurant guy.
I was not a restaurant
guy.
Okay. I mean, I had been around restaurants. I have buddies who asked me to cook in their restaurants. I did different things. When I was a kid, I worked in a corner deli in Philly where we made sandwiches and we cut lunch meat. And there's a butcher section there too where we did the sausage, and we would get the blocks of meat out from KBI Industries, run it through the bandsaw at 12 years old. Okay, yeah, and then adding the fat and making the ground beef. So the experience around food was there. Working with my grandparents, my grandmothers, and my mom during the holidays, and just every day. Really, the Italian family revolves around the kitchen.
So Philly Italians know how to cook is not a stereotype. That's just how it is.
It's in your blood.
Yeah. Okay.
It's in your blood.
All right.
And that's where you get your first experience with getting beat with a wooden spoon if you do something wrong. You have all these life experiences that come together.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was a motel. Was the restaurant there?
So the place was vacant, as I said, for 17 years. We're driving by, and finally, from going to tailgates, and people always saying that there was not enough rooms in the area and lodging and stuff like that. So I looked at it for the purpose of lodging. Somebody else had already bought it. 2 years later, that deal fell apart, and the guy called me, and we got into there with the expectation of just having a lodging place, which would help me from when I was bringing painters in and stuff from out of town to do my turnover.
Place to stay, sure.
So at the point we moved in, I also found out, hey, you can get a liquor license for free if you have a hotel with
It's practically nothing.
It's free.
It's literally free.
It's free.
Oh, I thought it was like $300 or something. Okay.
You have to pay the fees that everybody pays every year to renew, $1,400.
Gotcha.
So when I found that out, I was like, we might have to put a kitchen in here.
How can you not?
So as part of our renovations, we added a nice little kitchen, and then we had just the front dining area. And people said, nobody's going to eat here. Nobody's going to come to Philipsburg, blah, 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 blah. So I ended up having to do things piecemeal, which is horrible, which from learning from that experience and my first experience in the restaurant industry, we had times where our service was poor, different things. And it was because of the way we were set up. And because when COVID hit, we basically pulled teachers and high school kids who never were in the industry, and we threw everybody in there.
Gotcha.
When we first opened, I'll never forget, I walked out one time. You could sit there, somebody would be sitting at a table, there'd be a four-top. One person has their salad, another one's got their appetizer, this one has their dinner, and the other one might as well have dessert just to make it complete, at the same time. And it was just like, and we laughed, and, we just gradually got better from that. But the place really, it was sitting there, and people driving
17
by.
years, good Lord.
Just nobody would take the shot at it. And I love places because, as I said, I used to flip houses. I love things that are just blighted and worn down, and then get in there and give it that love and bring it back to life. And this building, fortunately, the owners of the building preserved it, as you've seen. It's in great shape.
Yeah.
It's in great shape. We're just cleaning everything up, painting, and doing the things like that. But the Philipsburg place has been wonderful. The community rallied around it once it got going, and we're there. It afforded us the opportunity to come here,
right?
Which is nice.
So the menu there, I mean, I was just looking at it online. I mean, I've been there. I've seen you there, but it's kind of like Italian restaurant plus chop house plus bar food. Is that like because that's what you like to eat, or you thought people might like that, or
combination?
Okay,
combination. So I've had a couple chefs come in and tell me that the menu's insane because there's so much stuff on it. They're like, how do you do it? We're on 322. So travelers going by.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
People are in the mood. Somebody's driving, up the coast. And we did find out something else about that place. There's like 15,000 cars a day go by there. And so many of it is travelers. And it first dawned on me the year we first opened after COVID. And all these bikers stopped in. And they're registering for rooms. And they were from Miami, South Carolina, Atlanta. And they drive up the East Coast and cut over to avoid 95 into Philly.
Okay.
And they end up on 322 to get up to 80, pass right by us.
Yeah.
And when they were coming back, the same thing. And I was like, wow. So I added things that, people traveling might have time to stop and have a sandwich. Other people stop, have dinner, and say, hey, let's get a room, So it really worked out nicely as I learned the space that we were in and what to do. And I only eat at our place. If you go to my house, the refrigerator is barren. It looks like there was an apocalypse and the people moved out. I even stole my pans and stuff from my house. So, when we first opened.
Yeah.
So now, my family, we eat there because we work there. I have my son works there. He's 15. My two daughters, 18 and 19, work there. I have two older ones that they moved away for work. My wife, Jennifer, she works there. So we eat there or we get the food and take it home. And you can't eat the same things every day.
Oh, so you want to have a little variety. Yeah.
So we have the variety.
Okay. All right. I asked the people on Facebook, the Foodies of State College group.
Great group. Hector.
They are great.
Amazing.
You've been on there a lot.
Amazing.
That's where I came across you.
Yeah.
I kept saying, I kept seeing these questions. Where can I get this? And somebody would be like, we are in. I'm like, what the hell is this menu like? Anyway, one of the questions they asked, which was kind of interesting, is there any otherwise popular food that you will absolutely never put on a menu? I don't know, like mac and cheese or something. Like something that people like, but you really just don't like.
See, I would have to go back to my Italian roots and say something that I don't like. If I walked into my house and my dad was making tripe.
Oh, my God.
The whole house, I had to leave.
Yeah.
And people love that smell. And they love the food. You put it in the sauce and you got this wonderful, for those that don't know, tripe is cow bellies.
Right.
Cow stomach. And it's this, when you lay it out, it just looks like a rubber mat that you would step on.
It looks artificial.
I don't, that's the one thing.
Can't do it.
I can't even smell it. Or pig's feet, no. My dad used to sit there with a foot,
just gnaw on it?
and he would put it in the gravy. And it's gravy when you're putting meat. It's sauce when it's like a marinara. That's how we were brought up. So, you take a little side, skim off some of the gravy, put it in there, and put a pig's foot in it. And he's sitting at the table, pulling a toe off and gnawing on it. And I'm just like, all right, I'll never have that.
Can't do that.
No. I don't know what that thing was standing in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is actually, I'm getting the interview because I've wanted to get this interview for a while, but this is a cheesesteak episode. So Let's talk cheesesteaks.
Oh, boy.
Where do you get your rolls? You've told me this, and I forgot. Is it
Corporalee's Bakery
Corporale's
in Norristown.
In Norristown, yeah.
When people, everybody says, oh my God, we have Amoroso rolls. Amoroso's went downhill years ago.
Yeah.
When I was growing up and I worked in cheesesteak shops and stuff like that, we would come in and every morning the stacks all around the city were Amorosos.
Yep.
If you were up in Norristown, it was Corporale's or Morbido's. There was just different places. Conshohocken Bakery had their stuff. If you look at the sandwiches that are rated in Philly as the tops, Corporale's is now the role that some of those places use. Conshohocken Bakery, Lycio's. You have these different places that are going. Amoroso's ain't even. I don't think they're in any of the top 10 anymore. The family sold out, and it's they moved on. Products change when that happens.
Yep.
So the rolls at Corporale's, they have a leathery outside texture that's amazing. So for the stadium, when I first met with those folks about doing stuff, they came over to the We Are in Philipsburg. When they came in, I already had 2 cheesesteaks cooked for these guys that had been sitting for over 2 hours. And they're like, yeah, well, we want to try your cheesesteaks. I said, all right, well, let's try these first. And I come out with these wrapped sandwiches, and they're like, okay. I was like, well, these have been sitting for over 2 hours. I want you to see how long our rolls hold up, just so that you guys know.
Which is a weird kind of flex, but you know what you're talking about.
But they opened it up, and it looked the same as the ones we just cooked.
Right.
They have that leathery exterior.
And it stays that way.
And I had to say, when I came up here growing up my whole life and stuff like that, people say, oh, you got to go to this place for a cheesesteak. People tried, but they don't have the ability to make the same type of bread here. I think it has to do with the atmosphere and the water. Okay, that is in Philadelphia. I don't know if that's good or bad. With the water,
people say the same thing about biscuits in the South.
Yeah,
it's not the same here because we don't have the same flour. We don't have the water. Yeah,
bagels in New York.
Bagels in New York, right?
So Yeah, the rolls just hold up so well. They do. I mean, we can make our sandwiches up there 4 hours early and selling them.
Yeah.
And it's nice having the two places in the stadium. It's really nice.
So what kind of cheese do you use?
Whiz.
Whiz is
Whiz
Good
is
man.
the go-to.
All right.
But we also, if somebody says, hey, I want American, I want provolone, whatever you want. One of the cheesesteaks that has the mozzarella cheese on it is our pizza steak.
Mm-hmm. So
I got thrown off of cheesesteaks in Philly because apparently I've been gone for 20 years now and they forgot what they were doing down there. And I might have to go back, Lou, and re-educate some people. A guy walked out of D'Alessandro's, put a video up and said, look at this pizza steak. It was a cheesesteak with sauce on it. I was horrified. So I don't want to say I attacked him, but I did respond to his post.
How do you make a pizza?
Yeah. So I then did a video, and it was about 9 minutes long, of making a pizza steak. And really, I lost my mind during it because I was calling out everybody in the city. Steve's Prince of Steaks up in the Northeast. You guys can stick it too. You guys can have Pat's and Gino's. Jim's off of the Overbrook section in West Philly was the best cheesesteak ever. That's who I emulate. But it was just so a pizza steak. While the meat is on the grill, you put your pizza sauce on it, and it has to be mixed in there.
Yes.
Then you put your roll on top and you flip it over. Okay, then you put mozzarella cheese on it, and then you bake it. And when it's baked just right, so when I'm doing this, I take my spatula and I put a little of the sauce around the bread edges, okay, and it looks like crust because it gets that little black charred stuff on it, and it's just when you eat one of those, it's amazing. And the way I like mine is I like to fry in fried onions, mushrooms, and banana peppers. Something with banana peppers with this sauce.
Okay.
It pairs nicely and it just pops. And I could eat 6 of them. I make a pizza steak, and as soon as you put the sauce on the grill and it steams up and you smell it, it's like, okay, one for you, one for me. And that's why I'll never lose weight.
Okay, this is one of the things I actually want to ask you because you have, for God's sake, 9 different cheesesteaks on that menu. And that's not counting that you can get them with chicken as well. You can get any of them with chicken. Is that right?
Yes,
so
of course.
18 if you're counting the chickens. Is the Chef's Pat, it really is?
That's my go-to.
Chef Pat's is your go-to.
It was because when I worked in
Whiz and American?
Yeah, Whiz and American. Because sometimes I can't make my mind up.
Oh, okay.
I'm that guy. But when we were younger, and I was like 21 or 22, if we were going to an Eagles game or something, my brothers, I have 3 brothers, we'd pull up the beer distributor. I'd go in. 20 minutes later, my brother Keith would walk in and go, he wants 2 cases of Budweiser. I'm just staring at the sign, with that ADHD stuff going on, and couldn't make the choice. But so I worked at a place called Overbrook Pizza, and it was right near St. Joe's, and we sold hundreds of cheesesteaks in a night. And I worked there full time when I had dropped out of. I did go to Temple for a year.
Okay.
I just don't tell people.
Well, you blew that, didn't you?
So I worked there, and every night I'm eating cheesesteaks for dinner or pizza. So when you can't have the same cheesesteak every night. So I would mix it up, and that was one of my go-tos: Whiz and American with cherry peppers on it and ketchup. Fried onions and mushrooms.
Where did the ketchup come from? I never saw ketchup on a cheesesteak until like 4 years ago.
See, I'm the opposite. When we worked in there, 4 out of 5 cheesesteaks had ketchup on them.
No kidding.
We ran through ketchup like you couldn't believe. Because, I had somebody call me out, man. He came right at me. He said, if you go into a steakhouse, like you go into Texas Roadhouse or Longhorn, do you put ketchup on your steak? No. But I also don't jam it in a roll with cheese.
Chop it up.
It's when I look at a cheesesteak, I say, hey, listen, it's almost more like eating a hamburger. Yeah. If you like a cheeseburger with ketchup, mayo, put it on there. If you like it with lettuce, tomatoes, put it on there. So I do a cheesesteak hoagie as well, where I'll put the lettuce, tomatoes, because that changes it up for me.
Absolutely. And it's a real thing.
There's a learning curve with people with the verbiage of these sandwiches too. We had one time when we first opened, someone called and said, I want 2 cheesesteak hoagies. Okay, so we made 2 cheesesteak hoagies. We send it out. Guy calls back screaming at the young girl in the front. And I'm like, here, let me take that. I said, hi, sir, can I help you? And he's like, I go to 2 cheesesteak hoagies, and I got these things. They have lettuce, tomatoes, onions on them. I said, have you ever read our menu? I did. Well, a cheesesteak hoagie, he was under the impression that as soon as you have a long roll, anything that's in it is a hoagie.
Becomes a hoagie.
Yeah. No, a hoagie has some vegetation on it. It's got these different things. And it becomes beautiful, and, then we eat that. So it gives you different sets of vitamins. You cover in all your food groups.
Right. Exactly. You have the perfect meal right there in your hand. What do you think is the most important thing about a cheesesteak that makes it where other places miss more? Is it the roll?
It's the roll.
It's the roll.
So I tell people are like, oh, well, it's 50% the roll. I'm like, no, it's more like 95%, because if you don't have a good roll, and that's what I started saying, people that would send me to places, it's like a hot dog bun, really big. It breaks up, it falls apart. You can't enjoy the sandwich the same way as that leathery where you're grabbing it and it's almost in a wrap, but it's the roll.
But it's a roll.
So if you don't have the roll, I don't care what else you do, you can't make a good cheesesteak or hoagie. Because it's just going to fall apart while you're eating it. You know? Especially the cheesesteak, though, because there's moisture in there from the steaming, you know, and the hot products. So it's definitely the roll. And then from there, you know, you're going into it's got to be ribeye. People go cheap and do sirloin, and connoisseurs know, but regular people don't really know. But it's always ribeye. Yeah. It's got to be. Yeah.
Are there any other good cheesesteaks in the area? I might as well ask.
I think I had to open my place because I couldn't get one. I was about to move back to Philly. I was. I mean, look, I was going to Jersey Mike's.
I'm not going to argue with you. I just want to know.
Lou, I was going to Jersey Mike's because, like I said, I was contracting over here.
Yeah.
At one point in my life, you know, after being up here for, say, like 13 years, 12 years, I'm going to Jersey Mike's and saying, wow, that hoagie's really good. That cheesesteak's really good. After we opened, and it was like 3 years after we opened, I was driving by Jersey Mike's and I was hungry. I went in and ate, and I was like, oh, my God.
How did I do this?
What was I doing? What was I thinking? And it's like pizza. I don't eat pizza. I haven't eaten pizza in years. But there was one point where we had a pizza oven, but it was people coming in and said, listen, we're not coming here for surf and turf if you're selling pizza. And I understood what they were saying, because then it becomes a pizza shop. So we got rid of that oven. But I took one of my guys, and we visited 7 pizza places that had different types of pizza in Philly, and we brought them back. And people were like, oh, I get it. Because in Philly, pizza is as territorial as a cheesesteak is. You know, do you like the sweet sauce? Do you like the thin crust? Do you like the Sicilian, which Via Venito's in Norristown has the best Sicilian pizza in the world? You know, I could drive down there every week and get one, but I just don't have time. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So you had a special one weekend. You did roast pork sandwiches.
Yeah.
Nobody here knows what the hell a roast pork is. Could you describe that for them? What is a roast pork sandwich?
So you get your porks different times. You know, you could use a pork loin, you could use a pork butt. I like the butts because it's got more flavor in the in the dark meats and stuff that are in it, instead of just that white loin, which is it's too bland. You know. So you get the butt. You're roasting it just like you would do barbecue, except that it's all Italian seasonings. You're cutting a thin knife and putting holes and pushing garlic down inside of there, you know. And then, you know, you roast it till it falls apart. And then, you know, you take the juice with it and you're putting it in a roll with provolone cheese. And my thing is it's got to be sharp provolone cheese. And the broccoli rabe, which someone said it's also called rapini. You get the broccoli rabe sauteed and put on there. And then Italian long hot peppers. Which it all just goes together. So it's perfect. You know, it's like God came down and made this and said, I give this to the world. But
it is a sloppy sandwich. But,
it is.
Oh my God, it's good.
But it's also, when I started doing research after I realized people didn't understand, it's a Philly thing. You know, it really is. It started in Philly and it hasn't gotten too far out of the city. You know, you got to know to understand it. And we'll be doing it here again. We'll have different times. The foodies came over to one day, and we pretty much sold out of it.
Good.
Did you come over that day?
Yeah, I did come over. Yeah.
It was nice. One person complained because the broccoli rabe was a little too coarse for them. And so if somebody asks, I can chop it up.
Oh, okay.
And then put it on. You know, so it's not as like.
Yeah, I took 2 home to my wife and daughter. They were like, oh my God.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I love it. One of the things I'd like to get here, too, there's a place in Lafayette Hill right outside of Norristown.
Yeah.
The Ye Old Ale House.
Oh, yeah.
With their roast beef sandwiches.
Yes.
They carve them right there when they pull that thing out of the
block.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, even with the roast pork that they have, when you go in there, so I was going there for lunch while I was working, and I can't sit and have beers. You know, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to drink while I'm working. So they have on draft red birch beer.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have a sandwich with that, it's so nice because it's soft. It's not that crispy stuff. It doesn't kill your palate while you're eating something. It doesn't remove the flavors from it.
That's the smoked meat places up in Montreal. You can get other stuff. Everybody's drinking black cherry soda.
Yeah.
Because it just works. It works really good.
I got to find where I can get it. Last I heard, somebody said Harrisburg, you can get the kegs of birch beer. But that's going to be on draft.
Yeah.
Because I love it. When I was a little kid, it was maybe I would sit with my dad while we're eating sandwiches or something, and he's having a beer and I'm having a birch beer. I'm one of the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the new place. We're here. It's 1031 East College Avenue. We're right in front of the Hampton Inn. Is that right?
Yep.
So, used to be Letterman's. How long have you been working on the place? Wait, let me go before that. How long have you been working on getting a place in State College?
So I first started talking to the owners to get a lease in October 2022.
Okay.
And there were things in the building. They weren't in a rush, and I appreciate how
And
they
it was
do
sitting
things.
vacant.
It was sitting vacant.
Yeah.
But they preserved it. You know, they had people
Right.
in here every week doing different things, making sure everything was taken care of.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they're just a wonderful company. And they researched me and sent like secret shoppers in to see how we did, because they didn't want this curse theory to continue with their building that
because
they
this was
had
not
just
a
acquired.
successful site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the other places that had failed, you know, they didn't want to see that happen again. So they researched me for probably the next 6 to 8 months. And one portion of that research was I had a knee surgery, and they realized that I wouldn't be there. They sent people in. They said it didn't miss a beat.
Wow.
You know, and they were concerned with that.
Good
me
thinking,
leaving.
though. Yeah.
They're a very smart company. They've been around for 65 years.
Especially with the two places being so far away, you want to know it's going to run.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we worked on it, and there were some moisture issues in the lower level. They had engineers in here, and every spring and fall they watched, and it's pretty much taken care of. Me, I was like, let's just get the carpet out of the basement. If we get a foot of water down there, we'll call it a deep clean. You know, there might be times when the students are down there and we have more of that and beer. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And we did polished concrete.
Yeah, I saw that. That's really nice.
Yeah, and some moisture, and we're going to do stone veneer 32 inches up the walls. So we'll do a lot of things to mitigate any problems that we would have had we just left it drywall and carpet.
Yeah. All right. You told me you're going to have a different name here. What is that?
Well, I had talked to there's a group that's acquiring the Hampton Inn, and I talked to a couple people from there, and we just discussed different things like the We Are Inn, and it's going to be in the parking lot of the Hampton Inn, and then there's the misleading inn portion of it. And I said, well, you know, there's a lot of places that are called inns that don't have rooms, but
they're not in the parking lot of a Hampton Inn.
State College people will be beating us up for trying to rent rooms because they know the other place has it. So we are going to do a rebrand before we launch, and it's going to be Happy Valley Live.
Okay.
Happy Valley Live. And that comes to me because when we go to the Rose Bowl, we're at LA Live partying there, and it's just a blast. You go to Philly, and you go to their sports complex, because we're only a half a mile from the sports complex.
Right.
So you have Xfinity Live, and I've been down there. And it also is more indicative of what we have going on here, because there's going to be a comedy night. There's going to be bands. We're getting a mechanical bull. We're going to have podcasts.
Sorry, that gets me every
mechanical
time you
bull.
say that.
That's going to be fun. You know, line dancing, all these things. And that's going to be at the lower level. And it's not going to interfere with the upper stuff, because our restaurant crowd is usually gone by like 9:30.
Okay.
You know, for dinners.
Yeah.
And then if it's the younger crowd that comes in down there, they're going to have a lot of fun. And there's the upstairs bar, because we do have 3 levels. So you might walk into here and this Happy Valley Live, and it's like, man, you're in the front bar or the main level bar. There might be karaoke or an acoustic thing going on. You go downstairs, it could be a country DJ with the mechanical bull and some line dancing. And it's just, we just want to have it be a fun place. Mm-hmm. And once again, it's another place that's been sitting. And I love places that have been sitting, like I said before, because I love to bring them back to life. The community needs it. You know, when people are driving by and they see something thriving, and all of a sudden there's cars parked there, and there's people there, and there's stories coming out of it. If you visit once and you have stories, that's enough. You know, but, you know, we'd like to repeat customers.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like you said, as far as the people coming, parking, you know, we're not in downtown.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have parking, and even for hiring, you know, we have an employee parking lot with 36 spots.
Yeah.
You know, I have a daughter who was working downtown, and she was like, man, she's like, I got to feed the meter all day, and you know, it's just rough.
Yeah, or park 4 blocks away.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, we're going to have a lot of opportunity with our hiring, which is going to be nice because we'll be able to take care of people as far as that goes. It's just wonderful to be able to have that. And on a given day, there could be 50 people working here.
Oh, right.
So
big place.
Yeah.
How are you going to balance your time between the two places?
Well, knowing that we were going to be getting this, and it's funny because several times it fell apart where people thought that it just went away, and it didn't. And I was reassuring people all the time, like, hey, this is still happening, but, it drags out, but for good reason. So the other place basically has been running itself for a year now.
Okay.
And it's overstaffed, which is costing me because I thought we were going to be in here last year, but then they had a little more flooding. So they said, hey, look, now we know the spot where it's coming from.
Oh, okay.
We've been watching. That's what they were doing, was waiting to see the situations recreated, and then they could follow the path. So, that place, I basically run it off of going in, doing the paperwork, and cameras. Cameras are huge. I see what everybody's doing. This place is going to have 32 cameras so that I can watch everybody. When I'm sitting in my office and everybody thinks I can't see what they're doing, all I'm doing is watching what they're doing. And I'm learning my staff and what I can do to help them improve. So that place is good, and I have people from there that are going to come here. I have some management level people that I'm going to be bringing over to split time. My daughter, AJ, she does my sauces and my gravy. Okay. We're going to do that here because we have such a large facility, and then we're just going to transfer it over to there. So we transfer it over to there, and that keeps the consistency there.
Right.
Because I don't want somebody different, making my gravy. AJ grew up at my table,
right?
So her and Jennifer, my wife, they know what it's supposed to taste like. So doing it here and then sending it there, it's consistent. And the same thing with our Alfredo sauce, our Caesar dressings, our wing sauces. People come and buy these things by the quart and take them home. And to that, we're also going to have, when you first walk in, where the hostess station is, there's going to be an area where you can, grab and go. You want to buy a jar of the sauce, you can do that. You want to buy the Caesar dressing, you can do that. It keeps it from people having to go all the way in, stand at the bar and say, hey, because that's how we do it now. People walk into the bar. Here, you'll see it as soon as you walk in, and you'll be able to get these things. We're also going to have like a deli case with some grab and go things if you want it.
Okay.
And any pasta, some sandwiches sitting there. Just pull up, run in, grab it, go. It makes things a lot faster. And if it doesn't sell, I'll eat it. That's what we do. I'll eat it.
Keep that food waste down.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So this is it's going to be the same menu, different menu?
Same menu. The only thing that I want to add to it, ribs. Because I loved coming to this building for ribs.
Oh, okay.
When it was Damon's, I came here, I got ribs, I got wings, I got waffle fries, I got coleslaw. And whatever the vegetable was, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But and probably chili. But that's my memories of the building here.
Okay.
And I want to be able to offer that to everyone because it brings some of that back to connect the past era with the future era.
Yeah, and people
I
do
love
remember
doing
that here.
Yeah. It's nostalgia, but it's also, if you make good ribs, it's nice.
That's a thing on its own.
Yeah. And on game days, people are coming by. They're going to be grabbing trays of food. And I've heard that on a game day, they would go through 35 to 40 cases of ribs in this place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like 1,000 racks of ribs.
So you are going to have a few TVs.
At least a few. Last count, I think we were going to they were down to maybe 12 or 14. We're going to probably be up around 27. TVs. I might even put them in the bathrooms, just because if you're in there, you don't want to miss a play.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to miss it.
You can't miss a play.
No, I hear that. Yeah. Somebody else might be offended by this. You're not going to be. You're tireless on promotion.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you have to be.
Yeah.
How are you going to grab attention when there's so much more competition here in State College?
Well, I've always told my team that our competition is us. We are our competition. If we're not doing the service right, if we're not cooking right, we're losing to us, And even within the team, it's not a competition between the front of the house and the back of the house. We're the same team. It's the offense and it's the defense. Sorry I put everything in football terms.
Hey!
But, even with the facilities, here's our competition. If somebody walked in here right now and opened this place with the kitchen equipment that's in there, they would fail immediately and miserably. It's dated. It's the same equipment that Damon's started with 30 years ago. We walked through. You saw it.
Yeah, some of it doesn't even work.
Yeah. So and it's equipment on top of equipment, and it's just to work in that type of environment. I would be asking too much of professional people. So we're replacing everything. We're jacking the whole place up in there. It's going to be the state of the art, almost a showroom. It's 2,045 square feet just in that kitchen, not counting the kitchen downstairs.
Right.
But just in that kitchen. And it's going to be situated so that you're standing in your own space and you don't have to walk to go get anything. It's just going to be wonderful for that. Because as a chef, I hate having to run to the back and there's people crossing up and then boom, you bump into somebody and there's 4 plates that were ready to go out on the floor. Now those people don't understand what happened and they're angry and they're giving you bad reviews because they had to wait another 40 minutes and then everything else gets backed up.
Right.
And it's hard to catch up from there on a busy night. So we're going to make it so that we are our competition. And I had told you a story before from a radio show where the guy said, hey, our station's number 1 in our demographic, but this station's doing this kind of stuff, and they're up to number 9. And our program director said, hey, listen, if we chase number 9, we're going to catch them. I guarantee we'll catch them. I'd rather stay at number 1, but you guys do what you want. So, and I enjoy the other places in town here. Like one of the harder things is when you own a place and you want to get out and go eat someplace else, somebody sees you and they're like, oh man, he must not like his own food. Now he's eating over there. Hey, just because I go eat someplace else doesn't mean I hate my place. I'm still a human being. I still like to have the experience of dining in other places, and my wife likes to get out too.
Sure.
So, that's what we do. Interestingly, I have a picture that I'm actually going to put up on the wall with the story. I took my daughter Talia to the Barry Manilow concert. Last time he was here was probably like 8-9 years ago.
No kidding.
Maybe 10 years ago. And it was Letterman's, I think, at the time. So we came in, and I was sitting there, and I was just in concentration. And she took a picture of me, and she said, "What are you thinking?" And I was like, "I'm thinking like if I was ever going to be a cook, and if I had this place, So it's really neat to have that picture and look at it. Because I was thinking back then, like, what a beautiful, beautiful place to serve people. It's just great. It really is.
That's
I love
awesome.
it.
You're still doing cheesesteaks at the stadium?
Yes.
Still going to be doing that?
As far as I know,
Okay.
there's we seem to have been pretty good with everything we're doing there. We have 2 stands there. One's in the northeast section of the lower concourse, and then the southeast section above Gate A. We had one on the main concourse. Yeah, main concourse.
Okay.
And it's been experience. The only downside to it is people all think that we're just a cheesesteak place. We are in for cheesesteaks. Cheesesteaks are about 10% of our sales. Cheesesteaks and hoagies.
At the stadium?
At the We Are In.
Oh, at the We Are In.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about 10% of our sales.
Wow.
Because we have all the Italian dishes. We have the seafood dishes. We have the steak dinners. We have all these different offerings. But people, it's a shame, don't come over because they think it's just cheesesteaks now.
Yeah.
So,
I got to be honest. I would go up for the Caesar salad.
Oh yeah, the Caesar.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was really good.
And that Caesar dressing was a dressing that I used to make when I was younger, and then I went on keto in 2019, and I needed something that was a little thicker. So I kind of jacked it up. And people, we're going to have keto dishes. We're going to have gluten-free.
Okay.
We're going to do all these different things to try to, once again, it's not just having all these different foods to cater to so many people, but there are people that have allergies. There are people that have different things that they need to overcome and still be able to enjoy their food.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm about. Come in and enjoy the food. If the food's great and the service suffers a little bit, for me, when I'm out to eat, as long as the food is where it needs to be.
Food's really, really good.
Then I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because I understand servers are people too, and they have rough times and different things happen in kitchens. When I go out to eat, I never give people reviews at all because I don't know what's going on in their kitchen that day.
Yeah.
And it's only one moment in years. Like, somebody was complaining about fries at our place that they took home. Fries don't travel well.
No.
They're steamed. They get, it's rough. But it's like, all right, so there's something that was like $5. We did over $1 million last year. So when you're doing over $1 million and the complaints are like a few hundred worth, it's sad because you want everything to be perfect and everyone to be happy, but it's a tough business. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
It's just rough.
Yeah, especially now because everybody literally is a critic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's a food critic.
Yeah. Last question, which some of it is the two places, well, three places really with the stadium. Some of it is the size of the place. Some of it is how many different ambitions you have for this place. Is there enough Pat Romano to go around?
There's enough Romanos
to
go around.
So that we are family things for real.
But one thing
That's
Pat
cool.
Romano is really good at is delegating.
Okay.
And I have guys in my place like, Connor, I have Trent, I have Tim, I have Gabe, and I have my daughter Mickey, who she's kind of front of the house, and Melissa's in the front of the house with her. And some of these people, like I said, will come over here and help me. And we'll find really good people here too, because the environment that we work in, the culture, the climate that I like to foster is one of family, and it's fun. There's times at the other place, I'll never forget the different times where there's so many slips that come firing over at once. It was like a casino bus came in or something. And I'd have a guy that's just sitting there and all of a sudden he's like in a panic, deer in the headlights. And I'm like, hold on for a second, man. Yeah, listen, man, step back, take a couple breaths. Matter of fact, go in the bathroom, splash your face, and then come back. We'll be fine, because guess what? If these people were starving to death, they would have went to the hospital. They wouldn't have come to the We Are In. They'd be going and getting, injections and, that kind of stuff to fix their bodies. They're just coming in for some food. It's crowded. The servers told them, do our best. If you panic and start doing the wrong things, then we got to recook things.
Then you get problems.
So you sit there and you just take that approach of like, hey man, just relax, and then things get better. You watch those cooking shows and you just see the guys Ramsay and he's got screaming at their staff. Screaming at people's not getting anything done any faster. It slows it down.
Yeah.
So there's times where I was doing stuff, different projects, and people are like, how long are you going to be? How long are you going to be? When I was a contractor. And the more you say that to me, the slower I'm going, because now I'm answering you instead of focusing.
Respond.
Then I got to restart what I'm doing, It's just too much. So, part of having more Pat Romano is allowing more people to have the power and sharing all that. That's so important.
Yeah.
My management style has always been that, don't sit there and be powerful tyrant. Share the power with everyone, because you can be surprised at what people can do given the opportunity to take some responsibility, And I've had businesses, for over 30 years now. And, some people don't want that situation. And my job, the key to my job is finding out who's comfortable where and putting them in comfort zones. Somebody who comes in and says, hey, I want to make like $12 an hour. They don't want to be the face of anything, and they're a little bit, reclusive, whatever. Let them, if they want to do dishes, say, hey, do you like this? I have people who love doing dishes. I'm one of them. I love doing dishes, because when I'm doing dishes, nobody bothers me.
It is my favorite household task. You're absolutely right.
I'm doing dishes. I see people peek around the corner, and it's like, one of the things, though, is they're like, oh, my God, Pat's doing dishes. We must have done something wrong. So they leave me alone. So I can go hide in the dish room, put my hands in the soap, do dishes, and nobody bothers me. It's wonderful.
That's a plus.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, too. We all do some dishes when we need to. We all cut lettuce when we need to, because we just want to, to help each other out. Yeah. And that's the climate to work in, where everybody feels good. It's a team thing. Yeah. It's a team.
I like that offense-defense thing. That actually works pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm just a coach.
Yeah.
Just a coach.
All right, man. Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank
Always
you,
is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care, man.
All right. See you.
Good luck.
Pat's got opinions too. I like that. I did get another local cheesesteak for comparison. I went to the one Center County place that Philly area people consistently recommend to me, Uncle John's John's, which set up in front of Anti-Fragile Brewing on Calder Way in State College. That's right, in front of means outside, on the sidewalk. I went in the snowstorm last Sunday, and a young guy named Thomas was working the twin flat-top grills. He was wielding the spatulas like he knew what he was doing, and it smelled good. I ordered 2 cheesesteaks. The only options are with and without onions. No peppers, no mushrooms. American cheese is the only choice. I was the only person there, so we talked. Turned out Thomas was from Levittown in Bucks County, less than 15 minutes from where I lived for 30 years. The rolls are from Gemelli's, just a few blocks away in State College. The beef was properly shaved ribeye. Thomas told me it was from within 30 miles, locally raised. He put 2 portions on the grill, let it brown, flipped it, hit it with some salt and pepper, and started chopping. He'd put some onions on the grill at the same time as the beef, and as they got soft, he mixed them in, keeping the spatula whacking away. Then he laid the cheese on, not stinting. When it softened up, he chopped that in as well, then formed 2 rows of hot, steaming, beefy cheese mix. He laid the rolls on top, slid the spatula under and flipped them, then wrapped them in foil and butcher paper. I tipped generously. It was cold out there. How were they? Half an hour later, I got home and we unwrapped them. They looked great, and the roll had held up. Steak, cheese, onions, the S&P, it came together well. Maybe a bit heavy on the salt. I know you're wondering, how was the roll? Honestly, better than I'd expected, even knowing how good Gemelli's breads, pretzels, and pastries are. The crust had a good chew. The hinge held up even after half an hour. The bread tasted good. But Nora and I agreed it was a bit hefty, chunky, especially in the hinge and at the ends, and the crust could have been more supple. I'd give it about 8 out of 10, and I'm still honestly surprised that it was that good, given the usual caliber of rolls I've been served around so-called cheesesteaks in the past 40 years. Hats off to Gemelli's, and to Uncle John's, and to you, Thomas. Oddly, I've had much better luck in general with chicken cheesesteaks in Central PA, and no one ever says anything about that. I had a really good chicken cheesesteak at Troy's in Bellefonte last year. Good meat, good seasoning, good sauce. I always get sauce on a chicken cheesesteak. I think they're too dry otherwise. And a good roll, the kind I remember from my Lancaster days that get a little gooey around the edges. But the chicken cheesesteak that really impressed me, not because it was better, but simply because it was good, was the one I got in Millville, PA, north of Bloomsburg, at the Original Italian Pizza. You know, I really want to do an episode on the OIPs in Central PA. They're so ubiquitous, it's like we don't notice them. We'd been out seeing covered bridges during COVID lockdown. Columbia County has 23, including 4 that span creeks over the county's borders. We were grabbing a quick lunch before heading home, and the OIP was right there. I called them from the parking lot, ordered the chicken cheesesteak with sauce and onions. I masked up, we did the business, and I took our food back to the car. OIP Millville, pretty much the middle of nowhere. 3 years later, I still remember that sandwich. Good sauce, clean meat with no gristle, plenty of cheese, and a roll that was just right. I wanted to go back and get another one. One of these days I might. Speaking of middle of nowhere, I've been told that Big Mike's in Forksville, way up in Sullivan County, also has a pretty good cheesesteak. He's another Philly area transplant who loved cheesesteak so much, he realized the only way to get a good one was to make it himself. I gotta get Pat to take a day off and run up for a research trip. That's about it for cheesesteaks. I may do a hoagie episode. Yeah, I know, we call them subs. It's not the same thing. So we'll need to talk about the differences among hoagies, subs, grinders, and zaps. Kathy brought home a hoagie from Moxmo Pictures' Famous Sandwiches new place on the outskirts of State College. It was pretty good. Alto down in Altoona is really good, as is Bonfado's in Bellefonte, and that's just right around here. Please feel free to let me know your favorite Central PA hoagie place. So what's coming up? Well, this weekend, January 25th, is Burns Night, the annual celebration of the birthday of Scottish poet and egalitarian Robert Burns. We'll be hosting a Burns Night dinner at the house with haggis, smoked salmon, tatties and neeps, cockaliki soup, shortbread, and yes, enough Scotch whiskey to loosen us up for the poetry recitations that make up a necessary part of Burns Night. I'll post some pictures. Then next month is Valentine's Day, also known as Lou's birthday, and I want to come up with a proper episode for that. I have some ideas. Hang in there. That's the show. Thanks to Pat Romano for the interview, and to my wife Kathy, as always, for her support. You can find pictures for this episode on Instagram at STAG Podcast and on Facebook at Seen Through a Glass. If you're listening to the show on the radio at WSOV, there are over 40 more episodes to enjoy, including a Milheim episode and a Nittany Valley episode at seenthroughaglass.podbean.com. That's Podbean, PODBEAN.com. Or you can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to toss a bit in my hat to keep the show going, I have a coffee button in my Instagram link tree, that's at Stag Podcast, and at the Facebook page. Thank you. You may have heard people refer to Pennsylvania as the Commonwealth. There are 4 states in the U.S. that are officially commonwealths and not states. The other 3 are Massachusetts, Virginia, and Kentucky, and Puerto Rico is also a commonwealth. Does it make a difference? Yes! It makes a difference in what word you have to remember to put on official documents. Otherwise, there's no difference at all. What's coming up? Well, I'm getting an interview with Joe Farrar, co-founder of Bald Birds Brewing in Jersey Shore, and I'm going to see if there's enough going on in Jersey Shore to build up a whole episode. Suggestions are welcome. Until then, thanks for listening. This is Lou Bryson with Seen Through a Glass from the smack dab center of the Keystone State.